Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. Today, we will look a bit at what is going on in our worlds and trying to make sense of this, and then thinking how we can effectively deal with stress and in so doing, improve our resilience. So, that would be the outcome of today's session. So, to introduce myself, I'm Adele Croucamp. I'm an organizational psychologist um, that initially did my training in South Africa and are now living in the beautiful city of Vienna in Austria, where I run my management consulting business, working with corporates on all people related matters. So employees in the workplace and the people agenda, driving the people agenda are so very important and necessary in organizations. So that's a bit about me. If you have any questions during the session or afterwards, or you want to get in touch, that's my email address. Please feel welcome to do so. And also the LinkedIn to the company profile. Okay, so let's just jump right in. Making sense. What is happening and what has happened in our world the last few months? So much chaos. So sorry, I just want to move my screen. So COVID-19 happened at the beginning of 2020. And what that meant was we were all brought to a very sudden stop with lots of fear, lots of anxiety, but everyone was forced to just stop. And in doing so, if you keep running and running and all of a sudden something stops you, you will lose your balance. And that's exactly what happened. We lost our balance. We have the highest stress, anxiety, and depression levels we have seen in a very long time. But the upside of that, and there always is an upside, is that we will not be anxious and scared if we weren't afraid of losing something. So something makes it worth for us to keep, and that we like doing and we like having, and that is the silver lining. And there's a little green arrow on the slides that you can see saying activity. And that's one thing throughout the session. It's a very practical session. So I'll give you some practical tips and tricks you can take back to your family, take back to your classroom when we go back to normal. But the activity is think about the silver lining. Think about what is it that you really don't want to lose? What is it that makes this traumatic experience kind of reminds you of the things you had or enjoyed, the silver lining? Okay, so look for the silver lining. Luckily for us, in the time we live in, we know a lot about stress, we know a lot about anxiety and depression and how to deal with it better. And that is something we're going to look at today, specifically focusing on stress a bit. So the outcome for this session is to look at practical ways where we can better connect with ourselves so that we can dig deep to get through this time as best we can and also build resilience for the future. It's not an easy time. I think when people say thrive in this environment, it's a bit dangerous because for most people, it's about getting through every day as best we can. And that's fine. In a traumatic experience, that is the most important thing, is showing up every day. So let's look at specifically teachers. And I asked some teachers in preparation for the session, I asked, what scares you the most? What are you most afraid of in this time? And it was specifically South African teachers. And what was so heartening is that most of the feedback wasn't about them being worried or the impact on their families. It was about the learners. So it was about, I'm worried learners don't really understand. What if I go through the work, they say yes, they do, but we get back in class, if we get back in class, and then I have to redo the work. Many students don't have access to online platforms. So how do we help them and support them? Because we went on with the curriculum, most likely assuming people are able to do the work. What if they can't? What about the grade 12s? Everyone's very worried about their grade 12s. if we go back to school, and I see the schools will open, or high school open 1st of June. So what is going to happen with my children that can't go to school yet? What about schools that simply don't have facilities to cater with social distancing? What support can I offer children that went through extremely traumatic experiences? Home life, maybe some abuse at home, maybe not having food to eat. How do we deal with that and kids coming back and helping them to work through this on top of getting through the schoolwork? What measurements will be taken at school when someone is tested positive for COVID? So will we then close again? How will government be able to supply schools with everything they need? There's lots of promises. Will they be able to deliver on those promises? And then how do we deal again with the physical, emotional needs for people that maybe didn't have the food, or didn't have the basic needs, or the supportive parents to get them through this time? So much uncertainty in this time and no answers. And I think that is important to acknowledge, is we don't know. Just like we don't know when the vaccines will be developed, we don't know when things will go back to normal, go back to as it was before. We don't know how learners will react and will deal with it. And for that reason, learning the theory of this is not the most helpful thing to do right now. Rather, the resilience of knowing how to move around, maneuver, and again, get through this time and get through the challenges that's going to follow the best possible way. So we talk about resilience, we talk about grit in the world of psychology when it comes to this. So acknowledgement is a very important step. And again, there's an activity to do. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, just pause for a second and write down your biggest concerns and what emotions you are currently feeling. Try and put words and language to what you are going through. And that is acknowledging that this is a reality. The thing and the feedback about just get over it, just move on, things will be okay, it's not that bad, that's not helpful right now. And also when you go back to school and go back to students, it might be a good idea to start with, especially the older grade. Say, what is going through your mind? What happened in your life the last 3 months, 4 months, depending on when we get back? And write that down, because that is acknowledgement. And once we see it, once we have a language to it, we know better what it is we need to address. We know better what it is we are dealing with. And then the second one of being kind to yourself. I think teachers is often expected to give and give and give, and doesn't get a lot of chance to just sit down and refill. So unfortunately, the need is great and we can't help everyone. So what is important in this time is to do as much as you can and let go of the feeling of guilt for things you can't. Brené Brown is an American psychologist who's done a lot of work on shame and guilt. And I would really suggest that you have a look and maybe read, spend some time, YouTube, there's some great YouTube videos of what she explains the difference between guilt and shame. But the feeling of guilt paralyzes us and it makes us anxious even more, or it makes us not do anything. We all go, I don't know what to do. I can't help anyone, so I'm not helping anyone. And that's not helping us to move forward either. And I think that's a really, really hard thing for teachers to deal with, is how do I let go of this feeling that I can't help everyone? Now, whenever I'm in a plane, I do think about teachers looking at this picture. It's that thing when they say, adults, first put your own mask on before you help others. Because if you can't breathe, then the ones who needed help will probably suffer as well. So how do we as teachers put our own masks on so that we can help others, which might be your family and your learners? So when you think about this overwhelming feeling of I'm drowning, I can't breathe, we can't help everyone, it's too much, let this picture be a reminder of your own mask and getting your own oxygen first so that you can help other people. So today, let's look a bit at how I can connect with myself and can get my own mask on so that I can breathe to go further. So that's exactly the next activity. Breathing. So breathing is something that is a very easy tool. Why? Because you take it with you everywhere you go. So some people will have, when they do meditations, will have candles or sounds, but wherever you go, you always have your breath. So learning to master and using your breath to help deal with stress and anxiety is a very easy but extremely valuable and important skill to have. So I want us to look at this video that is 1 minute, 1 minute 15, of what we call a breathing technique we call boxed breathing. So I just want to get it to go and then I will press pause. Okay. So what boxed breathing is, just want to make sure that you can see this. So what boxed breathing is for 4 seconds, you inhale and then you hold your breath for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 and hold your breath. What that does is it brings your focus into your body, which is a mindfulness activity, as well as giving your body oxygen that it needs. So it calms down your nervous system. Breathing, the benefit of deep breathing and controlled breathing is tremendous. And again, I encourage you to go look up on the internet of tips and tools and how this can help you. So we're going to do this for 1 second, or 1 second. I'm going to switch off my video and I will be back after this activity where you just for 1 second, 1 minute, apologies, for 1 minute, do deep breathing. Like they say, if your breathing is okay, then everything is okay. So I can just get back to the slides. Apologies. There we go. Okay. So again, breathing calms your nervous system down and it gives your brain a bit of a break to just focus on what to do best. And something very important that you can even take back to before starting a class, if the kids come in, you see they are highly anxious, or the 1 minute, or if you have 2 or 3 minutes breathing exercise, box breathing specifically, is a very good way to quickly just calm down the energy within individuals and the collective. Very important one to use. So Let's have a closer look at stress. And there's some fascinating research done on performance specifically. Stolberg and Magnus, they wrote a book called Peak Performance. And what they did was studied high performers in different fields, athletes, corporates, different industries to see how people maintain a high level of performance over a long time. And what they have found is that how we view something fundamentally changes how our bodies respond to it. So, stress is not a bad thing. Stress is our body's way to prepare for a challenge. And how you see stress is will change how your body responds, right? So it's the chicken egg, what comes first. So if you realize, if you recognize what stress feels like in your body, and you see it coming, and you tell yourself, it's not fear, it's my body's way of responding to rise up to the challenge that is coming, your body will be able to better deal with the challenge that is coming. So the internal dialogue we have with ourselves are extremely important. If you feel in this time, I don't cope, it's too much, the need is too big, and I'm really scared. And that is the dialogue, those are the words you keep saying to yourself. It might mean that your body responds as being extremely scared and underperform and not being clear-minded in this time. So what they've also found is that resilience grows through alternating between stress and rest. So two things. One, stress is not bad. Stress is a very natural way for our bodies to wake up because there's a challenge coming. And two, how you view this feeling of stress will impact how your body is able to deal with the challenge coming up. And three, you build resilience by alternating stress and rest. So stress plus rest equals growth. And that is the important part, that if you used to just go and never take a chance to take some rest, you will not grow, you will just be stressed all the time. So different people rest in different ways. For some people, it is spending time with friends. For some people, it is being out in nature. It is watching Netflix series. It is doing something creative. You need to define what your definition of rest is. And active rest is also important. So in a space where you give your mind a break, but your body is doing something. So you're still engaged, but there's no mental capacity being used up. So that could also be rest, active rest. The four things that will help us, and all of this is based on research. If you want to know more and know more who the authors are, please send me an email and I can send you the references. But this is based on mindfulness research specifically, and how helpful it is for us to practice mindfulness. So what the research tells us is, if we want to find balance and recover, then these are the things we can pay attention to. And humans, very much like a spider, right? If a spider always has two legs on the ground, which keeps it up, at least two legs. If one leg or another one on the other side is not working, was injured, whatever the reason is, the spider can still stay up. But when there's no legs holding it up, it's flat on its body. And it's the same with humans. In some areas, you might not be able to control what is happening. Case in point, where we are now. You cannot control the regulations government is putting in place. You cannot control when schools will be open again. You cannot control that this virus happened and the consequences of this virus. But you can control how you respond to it. You can control how much you are able to take care of yourself in the other areas, to make sure that you at least have some form of balance to keep yourself up straight. So these are the different aspects, and in the coming sessions next week, we'll go into more detail with these specific areas. The four things I said will help you. It's kind of the cornerstones of building a balanced life. Is movement, gratitude, sleep, and mindfulness. Movement is, we know how important it is. We know that we are not moving enough, especially in a lockdown time where you don't go to the school or go to the office, where in the classroom you would usually walk around and teach. Now you're sitting, looking at a screen and teaching. Our bodies are not made for this. And there's a lot of helpful free tools on the internet that encourages you or that teaches classes involved in movement. So movement, super important. If you are able in the space that you are locked in or locked down in, um, if you're able to do any kind of cardiovascular activities, that is great first prize. If not, any kind of strength training, yoga, basic stretching, or just walking up and down. Movement is linked to brain performance, it's linked to mood, to well-being, a very, very important cornerstone of finding our balance again. Then gratitude, lots of things going on that is not ideal. Lots of things going on that we probably wouldn't have chosen if we had a choice, but also lots of things that we are realizing about ourselves. I look at the lots and lots of initiatives of South Africans just pulling together, helping people out, sending food, making donations, reaching out to others best they can. That is something that maybe we wouldn't have experienced if we didn't go through this terrible time. So keeping gratitude journal will help you to be reminded that not all is lost, to be reminded there's still good in the world. And that is something to easily do. It doesn't have to be writing down. It's literally a few minutes before you go to bed. Is looking or thinking about what am I grateful for today. Um, then mindfulness. So mindfulness the definition of mindfulness is being where your feet are. So being present in your mind, realizing that thoughts come and go, and the ability to not attach emotions, which will then manifest physically in your body and have an impact on your physical health, to realize that it's a thought, it's an emotion, and it will go away again. Mindfulness, again, it's not only sitting in the forest, meditating, activities reserved for a specific group of people that's into that. It's not that. Mindfulness, you can practice mindfulness while brushing your teeth, while doing the dishes, while sitting and staring, maybe into the garden if you're lucky enough to have a garden. Mindfulness is about paying attention to, again, breath. It's a very efficient way to learn mindfulness, but to get out of your head and to realize that what's going on in here is only going on in here. It will also go away again later. And mindfulness is a very deep field and lots to say about that, which we will get a bit more into next week. And then sleep. So before COVID, I'm not sure about, I see it changing a bit, but before COVID, there was this very strong thing of how busy I am, how little I need to sleep. And we saw it from very influential people in the world of saying they only need 3 or 4 hours sleep. And that's an unfortunate thing. Lots of sleep research also coming out the last few decades about the importance and of sleep, and not sleeping not just in quantity but in quality. And what they say is that if you don't get enough sleep, your brain function is almost on the same level as someone who's intoxicated by alcohol. So if you show up at work and you didn't have a good night's rest for a couple of nights, then your productivity could be the same as someone showing up drunk at work. And that's scary to think of, that something so fundamental that our culture of overperformance has downplayed for way too long. I'm hoping that sleep or that's changing, shifting a bit in the time of COVID, where people are realizing it's okay to pause. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to focus on what really matters again and spending more time with family, spending more time at home. So I'm hoping that that's one of the things we will walk out of and saying, okay, so at least we got that right. But sleep is very important. A lot of people have a lot of dreams in this time, overactive minds and brains going on, and that's also normal. So your brain is working through what you are experiencing when you're awake, when you sleep. That is why sleep is incredibly important. And then at the middle of this for me is purpose. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist in a concentration camp in during the war, and he did a study on, he couldn't scientifically prove it while he was in the camp, but he started observing, why is it that some people just stick this out? Why is it that some people have so much resilience to keep going and some people give up? So the rates of the suicide rate or mentally, physically just giving up in that time was quite high. And he started studying this and realized that if people have a reason to live, have a reason to survive this time, they tend to be more able to do so. And then Simon Sinek later came with finding your why, finding your purpose. Finding your purpose is important because when you are depleted and you literally have nothing left anymore to give, being reminded of why you chose to do this helps you to go a bit further. And the time that we have been given almost now as a gift to just reflect on what it is that I'm doing, what job am I doing, what do I prioritize in my life, what do I spend my money on, what do I spend my time on. This time has given us a bit of a pause to reevaluate whether our lives are still aligned to our whys, our purpose, and whether this is the path that we choose going forward. So maybe also a silver lining for this time is figuring out, are you still energized by what you do despite of how difficult this is? And if you are, wonderful, then keep going. If you're not, is it maybe time to sit and reflect and say, what is it that gives me energy? What motivates me? What do I need to get energy? How should I structure and design a life, a career to have the energy to go forward? And again, a topic we will discuss a bit in more detail in the coming weeks. So a very easy short list, maybe more relevant in the beginning of COVID than where we are now, but still being in lockdown or being restricted with movement is very important. And this is something to take into schools as well for kids, is you can still be in a routine. You need a routine. We need routines. So your sleep will be better if your body can predict when it's time to sleep and when it's time to get up. So a wake up time and then a go to bed time should be more or less at the same time every day. And then what happens? When do you eat? Are you in a routine with eating? When do you build in time for some movement or exercise? So, and then the second thing is get dressed. I know there's a lot of jokes of awkward Zoom meetings where people were only dressed halfway up or not dressed at all. But that is not, for our mental health, a very good habit to get into, is when you get up, get dressed, because it prepares your mind mentally for it's time to work. We're not sleeping anymore. Also, your working space, if at all possible, you need to have a designated working space that reminds your brain that this is now the space where we are going to focus and going to get things done, and not have it all mixed up, if at all possible. I know it's not possible for everyone, but our brains do prefer the impact of environments are quite important. When you go to school, you go into your classroom, you know you are being a teacher now. When you go into to the dining room table, you know there should be or there will be eating done at some point today. Then make time for movement. There's some free online classes available. Here's just a few examples, but lots available. You can just Google them. Eat healthy and drink enough water. Getting into a bad habit, especially weight related, is very easy to do in this time, but making sure that you're still taking care of your body, especially now, is important. Do one creative or brain stimulation activity per day. So if you like drawing, like writing, no one needs to see it. You don't need to be scared of doing it. Your brain just needs to let go and tap into a part that's not a problem solving part. And you'll be amazed at how creative or how good you can problem solve after you have done a creativity exercise. Read something interesting, not COVID related. There's so much noise out there. Read about COVID once a day if you really have to. At this point, I do think we know what we know about this virus. We know we made some mistakes, we did some things right, and it is what it is. The question is, where do we go from here? So knowing more about this might, unless if this is your field that you are in, might not really add value to your life. So stick to reading about COVID once a day. Physical isolation is not social isolation. Do not feel that you should avoid humans in this time. Reach out as much as what is safe and possible. Still set goals and work towards achieving them. I know the grade 12s are super disappointed about missing out on all these things that should have happened this year, that they were really looking forward to and saved up for the matric farewells and all of that. But when they are back, ask them, okay, we've got 6 months left. What are the goals we want to achieve? Let's refocus, regroup, refocus, and bounce back from this time. And then go outside and get as much sun as possible. So the unfortunate thing for South Africa is that summer is over and winter started to come, and the amount of sun is not so freely available maybe as a few months back. But still, even if it's just chilly, cold, fresh air in the morning, make sure you go out as long as you're safe and allowed to do so, as much as what you can. And even if it's just standing inside by the window with your face in the sun and doing a box breathing exercise for 1 or 2 minutes, do that. Our bodies need vitamin D, our minds need vitamin D, especially South Africans. We like being in the sun and we need the sun. It has an impact on our mental health. So that is a very important and easy thing to do that we think we do, but not enough. They say that if you want a sufficient vitamin D forming, research shows that 15 to 20 minutes on your skin in direct sunlight is what we need a day, which doesn't sound a lot, but it's actually a lot. And especially having as much skin exposed to the sun as what you can, so not covering up, especially in neck and face. Is the best absorbent for vitamin D. So see if you can do that, because if we can physically take care of our bodies, we will able to mentally deal better with the stressful times we find ourselves in. And then above all, show up, show up. We are figuring this thing out. We didn't know it was coming. We weren't trained. Maybe if you were lucky, you were trained for chaotic environments. And some people deal with this better than others. But showing up, figuring this out will also boost your immune system, because you feel that you are part of something bigger and you're adding value. Hiding away makes you feel more of a failure, more of a victim in all of this, which is not helping you or in the society that you can be contributing towards. So that is the session that I prepared for today. A lot of information on here, many things that you might have heard before, but it's always a good reminder to just realize that we do know how to get through this. We just need to do it, right? Which is one of the most difficult things to do. We know what we need to do to be healthy, to be happy, but it's hard. So it's a good reminder always to do. So the checkout activity I have for those on the call, and also if you're on YouTube, then just pause the video, is to write down 3 things you are grateful for today. That ties into the gratitude activity we were talking about earlier. So 3 things you're grateful for today. Remember to focus on the things that matter most. Very, very important. Lots of noise, lots of confusion, lots of emotions out there, but having a laser sharp focus might be the most important thing for where we are now. For you as a teacher, for you as a mother, for you as a sister, as a wife, as a father, it's as a partner. So for you within a certain context, as well as you as a teacher. So knowing how to get your class and classes through this time, that is both traumatic for you and for everyone else. So a very, very important time is to keep focus and make sure that you are able to know what the goal is, you first. So connecting with yourself, taking care of yourself, taking your mask self first, so that you're able to help everyone else that is depending on you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it from my side. If you have any questions, there's my email address on the slide, so please do get in touch. And then next week, Wednesday, we will continue to go a bit deeper into the 4 pillars of helping us to find balance and to get focus back. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful Wednesday and see you next week.